Welcome to East Coast Mom, West Coast Son.
Mm-hmm.
Today is
Mm-hmm.
October 4th, and Tevin is in Las Vegas, and I am in Warren, Ohio. So, Tevin, what's the energy in Las Vegas right now?
Uh, um, I haven't been out today, but that day after, um, um, I worked that morning, and I met with a few families that like either were there and experienced it, or had family that and one of the ladies, her boyfriend had got shot, and she had to like carry him out of the venue. And she was there, and she was waiting for more family. When the family came, everybody got up and was crying, and it was obviously just intensely traumatic. um People, which I was surprised, I really didn't expect to see anybody out that next day, at a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
um but people were out and about and trying to,
Mm-hmm.
you know
And I think that's great.
yeah. The city, they really stood up. They because I posted on Facebook about the blood drive and all that stuff, like early, like a couple hours after it happened. Um, and I went to go before work, and when I went to go out, I saw that the lines. It was like 5 hour wait to give blood. Like the lines, people really came out and were real, like the entire town.
Right.
Um, so it was really incredible to see that. Um, I mean, because there really wasn't much that people could do as far as helping.
Right.
I donated. There was I donated sleeping bags and pillows. A fund for sleeping bags and pillows was because when the city went on shutdown after it happened, people couldn't get back to the hotels because most people there were from out of town. They were from other places on
Right.
vacation, so they couldn't get back to the hotels. So they opened up. I think it was one of the arenas, one of the stadiums, as a refuge for people to be able to stay for that time. And they were sleeping on just hard ground, so we donated pillows and sleeping bags and stuff like that. But outside of that and donating blood, there really wasn't much for people to do. So but yeah, now there's a lot of funds out, Red Cross and all that stuff
Mhm.
for families. But yeah, people were incredibly, supportive and optimistic moving forward. The town was, at least, the
Mhm.
locals. So
Yeah. And so, what's the energy as far as the groups that I run in? It's a lot of the conspiracy, you know. I want to be clear about what false flag means. It doesn't mean that it didn't happen, that people didn't die. It means that they create a story to cover whatever really happened. And so, what's the energy with that?
the people here aren't trying to hear it. I mean, all this conspiracy stuff that's happening outside of Las Vegas. That's
Mhm.
because the people here, anytime that I've seen any thread or heard people talk about it here, the people here are like, we don't want to hear it, because it's like
Mhm.
it was just such a tragedy. People aren't trying to
Right,
listen to.
right.
So as far as the town itself, yeah, nobody's even considering or even thinking about conspiracies or what it actually could have been and all this stuff. So for the most part. So
And so, I kind of want to talk about that is how we take things that happen and then the energies that we feed into it. So it could go where we're in fear, afraid the next thing's going to happen, and we have this energy of fear. And when you have a trauma, oftentimes fear is something that happens. Or the conspiracy stuff that happens, where you're just feeding anger. But instead, can we pull together like you say the locals are and the people are pulling together and have an energy of empathy and love and compassion and okay, this has happened. We can't, like you said, we can't change anything. All we can do is pull together. We can't go back in time. We can't what can you do? There's nothing you can do except really maintain a positive energy about what we're going to do from this moment forward and really be careful of that negativity.
yeah,
Either feel
yeah.
the fear or the anger.
I think because of the detachment that people who weren't here for it have through the internet, through all this stuff, and that lack of empathy. Because obviously, even watching, if anybody watches the videos, you feel something because it is. I mean, it's such an intense thing. But even through that, there's a lot of people who, because of the detachment, and it's more difficult to have empathy, I guess. And for some people, when they're detached like that, I think that's why all the conspiracy stuff is happening. But I think that's why the people here aren't even trying to think about conspiracy. They're talking about rebuilding the relationships, right, rebuilding the community. That's so.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, I will say though, it does create a platform for more security and things like that. And so, and I guess does that create more fear?
And what do you mean?
Well, we want safety.
Mm-hmm.
And Las Vegas is already such a police state as it is because there's cameras everywhere. Like you can't do anything in Las Vegas without being seen somewhere.
Right.
But if they add more security measures because of this, does that feed the fear?
You know what, I was thinking about that because David and his family are flying in next week, and after that happened, I was sitting here thinking I felt bad because they're coming out to go on vacation, and it's it's David's first time out here. I'm not sure about his family if it's their first time or not, but their first time out here, and after that happened, it's like what I don't even know. What's the vibe going to be like? I don't want them to be uncomfortable. I'm sure security is going to be tenfold for the next, and yeah, I was thinking about that. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I know for
Does that
me,
come up at all in any of the conversation that you've heard? Have they talked about amping up security in any way that you've heard about on the streets?
Yeah, they're up in security. As far as security itself, just normal policing. I think there'll be more of a police presence, but I don't think it's for just normal policing. I think it's because they're still doing investigations and they're still, in link with that. But yeah, just as far as security presence, I'm sure there's going to be, increased. But yeah, it's interesting. I don't know, because I never go down to the Strip, only for if somebody's in town and that wants to see it, just so it stays fresh. For me, I don't get bored of it. But so yeah, even when I go down there, it's going to be, I just don't know, if it's going to be eerie or what,
Right. Well, I mean, it's such a big place and there's always so much going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really how people, how they address it. Or do they let the fear or anger or any of those negative emotions control them or influence them?
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I really distanced myself from it. Ian told me what was going on. I didn't watch any videos. I didn't do any of that. I waited until this morning and I started watching a couple of videos. And I immediately got this feeling to not, like my intuition was telling me, don't watch this because you are feeding a system right now by participating in this. And I felt it. And so the last couple of weeks leading up to this, I've been feeling high anxiety and tension. And so I even posted it. Does anybody else feeling that anxiety? It's in the field. But I don't know. We're at a place where we want so much change in the world, and we want to see what's really going on, the truth behind things. That's what all the conspiracy stuff is about, is really wanting to see the truth. But I think that we are going about it all wrong. We just we keep going back to feeding that anger and fear almost every time. That's the way we react, except for I would say that, like you said, the locals really coming together and that vibe, that should be a lesson, and we see anytime there's some sort of like hurricanes and stuff, people really do show what being a human is really all about. People really do come out and support each other and care for one another. But it shouldn't take these catastrophes for that to happen.
Right, exactly.
So sometimes I wonder if, because we want change, do the catastrophes show us, are they showing us what we're doing wrong or what we're doing right or what we need to do more of, you know? Can we learn from them in some way?
Yeah, that it's interesting because that, I mean, that links with people's lives in general when it comes to taking action on one's dreams, one's aspirations. It isn't, but in most cases, it isn't until catastrophe hits that people find motivation, they find reason, they find, you know, their
Right.
why on even just anything. I mean, not even goals and dreams, but even just being addicted or being in some sort of bad situation, anything like that. It isn't until, for most people, until they reach some sort of level of catastrophe, until they take action towards something.
Right. And I'm glad that you bring that up, because that brings up the people. Okay, just say our podcast, for instance, our webinar, for instance. We post this, and people are embarrassed to ask questions because they don't want to put themselves out there, and why? Because they don't want to be judged by other people in society. And I believe we're at this place where we need to start living out loud, because we should be able to make these changes without having the dark night of the soul, right? It shouldn't be a catastrophe that moves us to action.
Mm-hmm.
And so Jim Carrey lately has been really, you know, over the years, he's been really starting to speak out more and more and more. And did you see that post where he said
I watched all those videos. Yeah.
I
Jim
just
Carrey's
love
the
it.
man.
Yeah. Do we want to share his most recent antics on here? I can show the most. Have you seen the most recent one? Right.
I'm not sure. It's been a few days since I've.
Well, this one is from like last week, I'm sure.
Say, Jim Carrey. Yes.
What?
I've covered a lot of fashion weeks. This is the first time I've run into Jim Carrey. Wait, tell me, is it true you're wandering the streets? You need a date to the party? What's up?
No. I'm doing just fine. I just, there's no meaning to any of this. So I wanted to find the most meaningless thing that I could come to and join, and here I am.
They're
I
celebrating.
mean, you got to admit it's completely meaningless.
Well, they say they're celebrating icons inside.
Celebrating
Do you believe
icons,
in
boy, that is just the absolute lowest aiming, possibility that we could come up with. It's like icons. Do you believe in icons? I don't believe in personalities. I don't believe that you exist, but there is a wonderful fragrance in the air.
You don't believe certain icons have the power to make change, to think differently, to be bold, to inspire others? Artistry? You're one of them.
On the good foot. Ha! Yeah. You shut it down now. Yeah, no, I don't believe in icons. I don't believe in personalities. I believe that peace lies beyond personality, beyond invention and disguise, beyond the red S that you wear on your chest that makes bullets bounce off. I believe that it's deeper than that. I believe we're a field of energy dancing for itself. And I don't care.
But Jim, you got really dressed up for the occasion. You look good.
No, I didn't.
Was that an
get dressed
accident?
up. I didn't get dressed up.
Who did?
There is no me.
There's no you.
No.
We're not here. This is a dream.
There's just things happening. And there are clusters of tetrahedrons moving around together.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's happening in our world right now? Because there is a lot of news that actually is relevant that's not that
Here's the
uplifting.
thing. It's not our world.
None
That's
of
the
this is
key.
real?
Nope.
So you're just passing
We don't
through.
matter. We don't matter.
Oh, wow.
There's the good news.
Okay.
Gotta love him. Gotta love him. And she completely she didn't understand anything he was saying. Like, she was lost in all of it. Completely.
Right.
And that's where most of society is, right? Just, We believe these. We believe we're in this system. We don't even realize it. Is that me? I'm still going. I'm sorry. That shouldn't still be happening. So we believe that. Now I lost. Now I can't. Okay, there we go. We don't even have the capacity to look deeper, to realize that everything is belief, and to question our beliefs, to question society, and this is where I'm going with this, is that we've got to quit being afraid of other people's judgments.
Mm-hmm.
It's ruining everything. I mean, we're so worried about the simplest, unimportant things.
That's number one.
Yeah.
I think the judgment, is that number one thing.
Yeah. And like Jim said, it's really all meaningless. Things are just happening, and I've said it before. It's just experience, and while, like, the traumas that we've experienced do make us stronger, again, they're not what identifies us, and that's not who we are. And things are just happening, and we're just experiencing, and that's life. That's what the whole human being is just experience. And so, I mean, I kind of look at it like we're feeding data back to a bigger computer. So our experience, if you could view it as data, and it's being fed back to a bigger computer that's collecting all the data. So every human being is, experiencing their own personal experience, and it's different for every one of us, because we have all of our beliefs and all our experiences then that combine, so that our experience is personal and different, and not identical as somebody else's. What's the word I'm looking for? Unique, very unique.
So that makes me but I think for a lot of people, they don't find purpose. I feel like is one of the important things that people have. They don't have to, but I feel like helps them identify and make their lives more linear in experience and joy and all that stuff is purpose. So how?
I think it's like a multi-layered process. And so when you first start really evaluating things, there is this sense of purpose where I need to find out what my purpose is, so that I'm actually living life on this track, this timeline that I'm supposed to do. What am I supposed to do? Like, as if it was this novel that had already been pre-written, and I'm supposed to have a legacy, right? We all have this mortality where we feel like, if I were to die right now, what would I really be leaving? And so we are driven towards that purpose. And I had a few years, well, really most of my life, like, what is my purpose? And I think when we don't know what that is, and we can't transcend some of the societal belief systems to find that, because it does take to get very deep into to open up that channel of creativity and to find your true self, to find your purpose. And if you can't move past these societal belief systems and make an effort to do that, it's very difficult to find that purpose. Once you find that purpose, you realize that the purpose is actually creating a cage and boxing you in. And to have a purpose actually creates a box, because then it becomes an identity, and then you don't move beyond it.
I think
so.
I feel
it's
like
almost ingredient. You know what I mean? Ingredients in a meal. Certain ingredients need to go in first for it to grow and turn into what it needs to turn into. Right? Does that make sense?
I feel like also that's why people attach to some of the just outlandish ideals and beliefs that they do is because then they feel like they have a purpose. Like the people, I remember I told you about that Viceland episode with the guy. He went and met with the white supremacists and all that stuff. And one of the guys that he met with, the guy was very eloquent in his ideas, and you could tell that he did research, at least to an extent, and he wasn't specifically this guy. So a lot of the other guys were just insane, but this guy was, you know, he's like, this is what I believe. I'm not pushing anything on you. And he was very eloquent in like explaining how he got to these points and
He
stuff.
was educated, right? He was educated, right?
And then his wife, you know, when the guy would ask his wife stuff, and they did this because they knew they were going to get just crazy reactions out of it. And she would just say just things that didn't make any sense. But she was so rooted in it, and she felt so, you know, compelled by her ideas. And that was that purpose. She felt like she had a purpose, and that's why a lot of people.
And that's what I'm saying. That's where I really would ask people to look deep and see where you are rooted. What beliefs are you rooted in that you believe are true that may not be true? Because what if E equals MC squared is not real, is not true, it's just a theory? So then everything is just a theory. Our reality is just a theory. And so if you keep going deeper and deeper and deeper, but you've got to start somewhere. And so we've got to start with these surface societal beliefs. And it is about purpose, but it more than purpose, what it is, it's community. It's having these relationships with people outside of ourselves, because we're social creatures. And even though we often isolate, we need that companionship and those relationships. And so that's why people will go so deeply into religion and actually not talk to their family, and that church becomes their family, because they create these relationships and these deep longings to have these types of relationships with people. And so when they all believe the same thing very deeply, like that group you're talking about, they all have the same beliefs, there's no room for expansion, there's no room for judgment, because you believe all the same stuff. And so, and this is what I'm talking about being in a box. If you're in a box, and this is how you'll know you're in a box, because if I'm saying things to you that make you uncomfortable and you're not even willing to let them in your ears, if you can let an idea flow and it may be right to you, and release an old idea that replaces that. But if you have ideas that you're not willing, and beliefs you're not willing to possibly even entertain to replace, that means you're in a box. And so, because my fear was, as I went down this path and started living my life this way, was I creating another box. And how I knew I wasn't was because I could take new information in and release old information. So I continued to expand. The whole point of being a human is to continue to expand and evolve. And some of us have taken it and found that that's all we need. And that may be all that you need. But you really have to ask yourself if you're really happy. Do you really feel fulfilled? If you can tell me yes, really, really, really honestly, then that's what's right for you. You know, this, I would love to see humanity really evolve, all of us. But there are some of us that don't have the capacity to do that. You know, some of us, and it can be things like you started using drugs at an early age, and so your brain cells, you know, your brain didn't develop because that stunts some brain development. But even if you get to a space where you've damaged yourself, the more you start to peel back the layers, the more books you read, the more videos you watch, the more synapses start to develop in your brain, and you can't help but your brain expand and grow. But it takes that application. So, I mean, it's a certain sense of responsibility to try on new things and see what fits. You don't necessarily have to wear it. It doesn't have to taste good. If you don't like it, don't eat it again. You know? But you have, I think we as human beings have this responsibility to at least taste things, at least, you know, try things. And for nothing more than that, you feel like you're living to that sense of purpose. But to have a societal belief purpose, then, I mean, it's like you have to, like, again, it's like steps. And once you get to the next step, then you can look at the next little bit of information. It really is that our consciousness doesn't have the capacity. I couldn't comprehend today. What I comprehend today, I could not have comprehended 6 years ago. I had to get to this place. You just can't overnight understand these types of topics and these types of ideas, right? And
Yeah.
theory. But the key is, we said the first thing is to be willing. I mean, you've got to be willing. But even if you're not, like, you don't even know you're willing, you know, you just got to, as a society, we've really got to start looking at our belief systems and our identities and how that makes us feel fear of judgment, fear of anything, fear and anger. Because fear is the driving factor in so many of the things that are happening in this world that are affecting us in a negative way. So there's a reason right there. If you have no other reason to expand your consciousness, there's one right there for the safety of humanity.
Yeah.
What else? So Jim Carrey, and so they were saying, yeah, there was so much, and there's been talk over the years about him because he's really, he's done the same thing I've done, really started reading and tasting and playing and questioning and finding what resonates, and then moving on to the next thing and then the next thing, and expanding and expanding and expanding. And it can take you to a place where it all becomes meaningless, like he says, but there's a peace in that. And so don't misinterpret his words, because what is meaningless to him and what somebody else may consider meaningless are two different things. Because he means meaningless in a huge, conscious, universal way, like the answers to everything way. And there was talk about that he's crazy, and I said he's not crazy, he's awake, because that's where ultimately humanity is going. And then once we get there, we have so much further to go.
Right.
So that's our regular system, how we do that. We see people and we automatically want to judge them and say, because they're saying something that makes me uncomfortable or I don't understand, that they're crazy.
Yeah. I had a random dream last night that Mariah Carey, I was taking care of a certain Mariah Carey, and I kept forgetting to ring in her food. And then I kept walking by her, and she's like, "Oh, how's the food coming along?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, yeah." And I kept lying, like, "Oh, it should be out in just a moment. Let me check on it for you." And then I would go to the computer to ring it in, and then the computer wouldn't be working, and then it just kept happening over and over again. And she was so gracious in my dream.
Yeah.
Random thought.
I wonder what that means.
I'm taking this left field real quick. I'm gonna go ahead and just take this left field.
I think it's important that, okay, so let's talk about dreams and the way that works. It's just like meditation. Dreams and meditation are very similar, and that is your higher self and the things around you speaking to you in metaphor. But I wish it was as easy as our higher self and these energies just coming and sitting down and having a talk with us and saying, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do, and here's the answer to this.
Mm-hmm.
But that isn't how it works. And so it works in metaphor, and so it's your job to figure out what that language is and what you're being shown. Like I said, with energy equals MC squared, right now all of our systems and all of our math is based on these equations. But there's a good possibility that all of these equations are wrong. And if these equations are wrong, that means everything else is wrong. And so I keep coming back to, we believe things just because we've been taught them. It does not mean they're true. It just means that we were taught that.
Right.
And so if all these theories are just theories, they're just theories. There is no truth. My truth and your truth are two different things, because we're creating our own reality, and it's, what I experience and what you experience are two different things. But yeah, it could have been I think as a consciousness, you've experienced heaven, but you've experienced many other people. You've been many other people. And do we experience those same things simultaneously? You know, we don't really know how that works. String theory has it that we're experiencing simultaneously in quantum physics. But there's, several different, any possibility you can think of is a reality somewhere. It's just that our consciousness that we are living in right now is not aware of it. We're only aware of this reality. But does that consciousness feed back into a bigger whole that is aware of all the realities? And that's what I mean by data feeding back into a bigger system. If that's the case, I look at it like tragedy that we experienced in Las Vegas as just information, as experience, I don't know. So what else?
I really don't think Mariah Carey would have been as gracious in that situation as she was in my dream. That's what I keep thinking. That's what I've been thinking about all day, is how Mariah Carey actually would have been if I kept forgetting to ring in her food and she waited an hour for some chicken fingers and fries.
Okay, so what does Mariah Carey mean to you? You think of Mariah Carey, what does she mean to you? Like,
she's really not. There really is no significance at all. She's just an old. I never really was a huge fan of her in the first place. Or
have you watched a documentary or seen her on film where she's irritable and mean and hasty and has no patience?
She does. Yeah, she's portrayed that way in most. Yeah.
Okay. But you kept not waiting on her, and you made an attempt to several times.
Yeah, I
did you feel any anxiety or worry about it?
Yeah, that was the whole situation. Was like, oh my gosh, I keep forgetting, and then when I would go to do it, something would be wrong where I couldn't do it, and then it just like kept happening. Where I was like, okay, well, I'm gonna let this get fixed. Let me go check on my section, and when I would walk through, I'd see her again, and then be like, oh my god, So it was the same.
Yeah, but then she was nice and kind.
But she was just like, just wondering how the food was coming. Like, it was just like that, which I feel like she would have hit one of them high octaves. I feel like in real life. Where's my food? Yeah, it would have just been like,
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it's somebody that you think is one way and their personality is, you might be surprised. Or you feel hazed sometimes and other people are really relaxed and not really worrying about it.
That's possible.
So, I mean, you got to look for the hidden deeper layers and this is what I'm asking people to do with society. Just like you're doing with this dream, to take the time and look at society and our beliefs and look deeper.
This takes me to something that I feel like is important. Because a lot of America, most of America, work the majority of their life. Like day to day, they work the majority of the day. And then when they're at home, they're really not looking or searching for anything else. They're in that moment to relax because they know they have to do it again the next. Right. And lately, I've been having a hard time detaching from work. Like during those work days, like I have like, a few days off and I work on this and I work on these other things and I try to put myself back in my state of mind that I like to be in. But during those days that I am working, I want to be able to lighten the load. So like work on and be in my normal mind and my creative and my goofy during those days too. But I've been having a hard time lately detaching from that. And then just being like, when I get home, I'm just like, all right, what am I going to eat? All right, let me get some, then just sleep and then do it. You know what I mean? And so then,
that's what your dream is about.
Yeah. Wow, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
But for most of America, yeah, that they're waiting for the weekend, and then when the weekend comes, they want to be able to enjoy. They go and enjoy and do things that aren't, But then maybe that's why the ascension, like on a national, global level, isn't happening at the rate that we'd like it to, is because nobody's even thinking about that. They're like, okay, the weekend's coming, let's party, let's do something, just, you know. So
Well, let's
how,
talk about people not really finding, okay, so we just live to survive. We're working to survive. And it takes that looking deeper to find what you really want to do, and is what you're doing for a living making you happy, or are you just doing it to make ends meet? And are you really happy with your job and your life and your whole situation? And so there's a certain level of fear. Again, it comes back to fear, where I don't want to make any changes in my life because I'm afraid. Because if I don't have a job, then I can't pay my bills, then and really that's not how reality really works. Because if you get yourself into a good vibe and you close some doors, some other doors will open if you're moving in the right direction. And you create a positive reality. But why do most people not chase their dreams?
fear?
Case just even the idea of starting a side business to even slightly beginning to chase whatever my purpose may be, or I feel compelled to do, is just enough to get you started on this path. But you've got to start somewhere. And what we really get down to is why don't people do that? Why do they stay in that zone? They're terribly unhappy. They don't have to be, but they're afraid to make changes.
Yeah. And that partners with the whole belief thing, because they believe that they have to.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And they believe that they have to do things a certain way. I have to pay this bill because I need this. And why do I need this? Because it's going to make me happy from the outside in instead of from the inside out. We buy the nice car, we buy the RV, we buy the boat, we have the huge house with all the bedrooms when I'm a single person, and I have 3 bathrooms when I'm just one person. But, in case people come over and stay the night and I have guests.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the next thing, but could we, have an efficiency apartment and work smart instead of hard, and have just what we need every day, just to what we need, and then spend that time and that extra money on my dream,
Yeah.
But we do it backwards. We do what we hate, and we spend all that time doing that and trying to find that happiness by buying things and doing things from the outside in, instead of just living in because trust me, if you have that efficiency and you're doing what you really dream of and what gives you that peace and that happiness, you're not going to be paying attention to your 1 bedroom. You're going to be living life from a different place. And it's a whole different perspective and a whole different view. And it's not that view of just barely getting by, I'm so miserable, got to wake up and go to work again the next day. And just give me my Saturday with no problems.
Right.
My Saturday and Sunday. Let me drink my beer so I can detach from reality. I mean, we don't see the real what's really going on here. I mean, why do we have the weekend and drink and do these things? To escape. What are we escaping from? We are fully capable of changing this reality. We're just choosing not to. So you're not the victim, but we want to be the victim of the system. But we're the system. We've created it. We're creating it because we believe it's a certain way. Because we've been taught that.
Yeah, but that's interesting too, is that people don't realize that they are the creators. They can create, I mean, because even when it comes to just product and stuff like that, it's all been created by somebody. Somebody had the idea, and then they implemented it, and then now it's, you purchased it, now it's sitting on your desk. And but people they've extended themselves from it. You know what I mean? If they feel like they're just a consumer.
Yeah, we don't realize that we're all one. We definitely have some detachment. We're all separate. And that is also lended to the issues with society, is our detachment from each other and that separation.
Mhm.
So, yeah, and this fear to make changes, it goes with everything. I see it with the people that are in recovery that I work with. I see it with the people that aren't, that I'm doing transformational work with that aren't, recovering addicts or anything. And it's always where I give them the tools and I say, try this. And then the next week, and it's not always like this, but in the beginning it usually is, until I end up having this blow up and then they start doing what they're supposed to do. But it's usually they have all these complaints, and then I say, okay, do this, this, and this. And then the next week, all these complaints, I'm like, well, did you do this? That no. And then the next week, well, did you do this? That no. And I'm like, I'm giving you things for you to try. And if you don't try them, there's going to be no change. But we just don't like to try new things. And nothing is going to change if you don't try something new. And even though it may not resonate with you right now, you just don't know until you taste it. You have to taste it and try it on.
It's difficult though. It's difficult. It's not the easy.
How is it difficult?
No, I'm
How
saying
is it difficult?
yeah. How is it difficult?
It isn't. But is it? What it is they don't want it enough. Well, they do eventually, because eventually what happens is that, and it's just like this. This is how it was with me. It just takes one thing, and I try one thing that I never would have normally done, and I actually really like it. So then it opens me up to try something else, and then something else, and something else, and the next thing I know, I want it. Give me more, feed me, feed me, feed me, And I couldn't get enough of new things to try.
Mm.
And this is how we naturally are. But we've been taught to really put that away and be an adult and concentrate on this one thing and do your duty as a human being in society, to have this functional society, which is completely dysfunctional. And all of it is because of that behavior, really, by putting our nose down and not communicate with the people around us, and not having compassion for, and understanding, and that bonding with others that we need. So.
Yeah.
So what else? So what else is going on?
Nothing really. Yeah, working.
Well, how are you? Okay, so you're saying you're having a hard time disconnecting from work so that you can be creative.
Yeah.
And what is it? Your mind?
I still feel that feeling from a couple of weeks ago, where I feel like I'm not being, like I'm still holding back. And I know that it's that. I know that I'm holding back because, like, even today, like, I woke up and I don't know. I think I did a Snapchat, and just putting myself in a situation where I'm just being just completely goofy. It like kind of opens up my mind a little bit, and then I'll do something else a little bit crazy, and then it opens up a little bit more, and then I start looking outside, and I'll see people walking, and I want to just kind of go up and just like be like, just scare them, or do something just outrageous, just goofy. But but it starts off here, but I've noticed that I think
exactly what we were just talking about. That's exactly what we were just talking about.
Right.
Right.
And I think that's I don't know. There's got to be a process that I have to find, or I need to do something like huge and super uncomfortable.
So you're not getting that initial movement that you need?
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying? So go ahead.
Also, though, there has been little things. There are little things that I haven't been doing, because I took that few days off from work when I was sick last week, a couple weeks ago. And that's, like several $100s that I missed out on. So the last week I haven't been eating good at all. And you know, because I wanted to make sure I had rent paid before I went and spent money on groceries and all the other things. So I know just as far as like those little building blocks, I'm sure that's affected me as well. Just having like poor diet and
right, and that's part of your program. So eating well is part of your program that gets you there. And so you say if that you just haven't found that process, and so the next time you get to that place, or if you can think back to when you were in that mode of it's almost like a opening of a channel of energy that comes through, and so I need you to figure out what it is that opens that channel for you. You know, do you know?
I don't. I know. I mean, I know little bits, but I've never like really mastered it, because when I'm in those modes, I don't think about it. When I'm in like those highest moments, I'm just experiencing, you know what I mean? I'm not like, there's no analytics going on at that moment. But I know that when I do something uncomfortable, which makes sense that it opens it up, you know?
Yeah.
So doing things. So I really think that I do need to take a step into doing something way outside of my box soon, like whether that's doing a show or, you know, doing like a gig somewhere, like actually doing something incredibly uncomfortable for me. I feel like maybe beneficial, or might be completely opposite where it just ruins my life. Who knows? But
it's impossible. It can't ruin your life. All it can be is an experience.
Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know what I don't know what's going on with work that's keeping me. I don't know. I don't know if it's something at work or
well,
just.
Can you start getting yourself to the place where you go to work and you're just, you know what the purpose of work is, is to just make money for that, whatever your necessities are. That's not your real job.
Right.
That's just satisfying your needs, but for whatever to move you to the next rung in the ladder for yourself. But can you just do your job without all the, because what happens is we get involved with the people that are in that atmosphere, and when we take on their energy and their issues, it becomes a lot going on in our mind, and we carry that with us. It becomes a bigger dynamic where it's just not, go to work and do my job and come home. You know what I mean? Like we carry a lot with us. Like it's a part of our identity. Again, it goes back to where we bring it in and it becomes part of us. Instead of viewing it as just an experience, just, going through the motions and not having any vested personality in it.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you just need a little reminder of that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Now that I'm thinking about it, there are certain people that I work with that I feel like I am not getting. I want to say respect that I feel like I deserve. In certain instances, I'll just keep it short. Yeah, just the respect that I feel like I deserve. So I think maybe that's on my mind while I'm working. There's this feeling of like, okay, I need to be doing, X, Y, and Z, so this person will see whatever. So maybe that is playing a part into it.
Yeah, and so that gives you, this little conversation gives you the opportunity to really start looking deeper. Why does it matter what this person thinks, and why is that respect important to you, and what does that fulfill in you? And so because it's not like this job that you're doing is not your chosen career.
Right.
What we're doing now is your chosen career. And so that's just an end to a means. And so there's a personality thing going on there for you. This is what I'm talking about when I say that we have to clear out our pains and our traumas and heal ourselves. You've got something going on that you need to look deeper into, because somebody's, the respect they're giving you should not matter to you.
Yeah, especially because it's not affecting, because he ultimately controls, you know, how my schedule is and all this stuff. So, but since my schedule is good and I make a lot of money, it shouldn't be affecting me right now. Like if where my schedule were to start dwindling and I start getting less shifts or whatever, then
Right.
I feel like, you know, but yeah, since it is not, then I definitely
Right.
shouldn't even be thinking about it.
So, right. So the question is, why do you need somebody's approval?
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I struggle with the same thing. I've that's been one of my lifelong struggles, is not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not
Yeah,
good enough.
there's just this feeling of, because I know that I'm one of the better, you know, employees that they have. I know that I bring in great numbers. I know I have one of the best customer service, all this stuff.
Mhm.
But then I feel like I'm not getting respected as so, long story short,
Right.
in situations. So, and that bothers me. So, you know, I just don't like being talked to like I don't know what I'm doing, you know?
Right. But it's the bothering you that's the issue, and so this
Right.
is what we're trying to actually convey to people.
Hmm.
Is that when you're in a situation like that, and you have a situation like what you're experiencing, you've got to ask yourself, why does it matter what this person thinks, and why does it matter to me if if they know that I know what the hell I'm doing? Why does that matter to me? You know, why is their approval matter? Or it's not necessarily approval. You want this person to give you your props, basically.
Hmm.
You know, to look at you as an equal, like you know what the hell you're doing.
Right.
You know, and so why does their opinion matter? You know, and so this is the stuff that we really got to start looking deeper so that we can heal those things. Because when you can heal this, that really it ends up opening so many other doors that are closed, because that's taken up a lot of space.
Hmm. So what? So from I equate this because I would say I have, and what I do, I have an artist's mentality. Everything I do is in some concept of art, and putting out content and all these things. There's always that feeling of being judged that I'm susceptible to, and how does that play in, and how is it even possible to do things at that capacity without that feeling of being judged, and and wanting to be accepted and to get my props for the things that I'm putting out? How, you know, because it makes sense in that situation of work, but from an artist standpoint, how?
Well, we got to look at our so our approval of art, and so if we create something, and is it that people respond to the things that we create in a certain manner? Is that also a taught thing? Is that also something that I've learned? Have I learned that people need to respond to me and the things I create in a certain way? Or do I just create and do the best that feels really good, and living my full potential in creating the things that I'm creating, and put them out there and just turn my back?
Mm,
Because that's true creation. Not because of what somebody thinks, not because whether they like it or not. It's because you like it, because you created with your heart and your soul,
mm-hmm.
right? It's not about the judgment. It's not about somebody's approval. So these are the things that I don't really, you know, you say sometimes that that's what makes you better, but I'm not sure if it does. You know when you're in the flow and when you're creating something really good,
Mm-hmm.
because it feels right. You know what I mean? When you're creating good art, it has a certain feeling to it.
Mm-hmm.
You're in a flow. right?
Yeah.
I'm asking.
Yeah.
So as long as you create from that space, it doesn't matter what somebody thinks. And so this is a taught thing. This is something that society has taught us, is that we need the approval of others. And this goes back to the same issue you're having right now at work, right? It's the same thing. They're both the same thing. I'm not saying that we all need to go live in a hut off grid or anything. You know what I mean? But what we've done to society and to ourselves from this perspective is we've made it so mechanical and so feelingless.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the things that we respond to, and it's just inauthentic. Like the social platforms where people aren't really who they portray themselves to be. They portray themselves as what they think society would want. And so that means, are you creating from that space? Or are you creating from the authentic you?
Mm-hmm.
And one is true and real, and one is false. And it's time for every person to start digging deep and start finding that place, that infinite sovereign being. So, again, I'm going to plug weboftransformation.com if anybody wants to set up a meeting with me. And I also want to say that now I don't charge people. I only do it by donation. And the reason why I do that is because my goal is to have everybody get healthy. Like, I know that if I can have people grow in different ways and become healthier in different ways, what society will start to move into the direction that it needs to move into. And so the only payment for me is to see people succeed and see people actually live their dreams and move beyond their insecurities and fears. So when I can guide people to actually see things from a different perspective and start to dig a little deeper in some areas. But so that's me creating, and that's my creation right now.
Yeah.
And
And
Tevin, what are you doing right now?
What am I doing right now? I'm about to record episode 3 of Pineapple Romance. So my venture is completely selfish. I want everybody to watch and praise me as a creative being. I need everybody to give me my props. I need all the comments to be positive. If there are any negative, you're getting blocked. That's how I roll. So.
Oh, that's funny.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, go ahead.
Yeah. That's all.
All right. And so if anybody's interested, also leave comments and questions, or there's any topics that you want us to talk about. Tevin will have a different perspective than me almost every time. And mine is very abstract, and we're just tetrahedrons dancing in this abstract things of happening, right?
Right.
Something out of Jim Carrey's book there. So, it's nice to see you. I'm glad you're safe, and I'm happy to see a smile on your face and not that fear. And I've really, the people that have helped raise you and myself have done a fabulous job. I'm very proud of you.
Oh, wow. Well, I appreciate you guys and everything that you've done. I wouldn't be here without you guys, and everything that you and I have experienced, has helped us both grow. So it's been awesome. It's been a wild ride.
It's always fun. The roller coaster of life.